Welcome to Mishna study of the Masechet Demai Perek Mishna. Over here, we're going to speak about if someone bought something from a poor person, or even a poor person who's going around traveling and collecting, is he allowed to separate maaser once on everything that he bought or collected, or does he need to do each individual item separately? What if he collects it all from one person? Right, so that's what we're going to discuss in our mission. הלוקח מן העני, וכן העני שנתנו לו פרוסות פת או פתחי דבלה, מעשר מכל אחד ואחד, ובתימנים ובגרוגרות, בולל ונוטל. אמר רבי יהודה, מתי? בזמן שמתנה מרובה, אבל בזמן שמתנה מועטת, מעשר מכל אחד ואחד. So firstly, if someone buys from the ani, right? He goes to purchase from a poor person, and similarly, a poor person who received bread, right, or a fig cake from, right, a homeowner where he's collecting from, he needs to separate from each fig cake, right, or each, piece of bread. But when it comes to figs, when it comes to dates and gerogrot, and also when it comes to dried figs, right? So dates and dried figs, he's allowed to be bolel. He can mix them together and then take one maaser from the mixture itself. Now, why so? Why is this? It seems like Chachamim were mekil when it comes to smaller items. Or maybe we're assuming over here it's coming from one person as opposed to, the slice of bread may come from different loaves of bread. Over here, when it comes to, actually dried, dates and figs, you could take it in one shot. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, right? Whenever we have Amar Rabbi Yehuda, he's explaining, Ematai, when so, right? When are you allowed to rely on this kula and just separate one maaser, right, for the entire batch? When he received a nice sizable gift, right? So he's collecting, the homeowner gave him like a nice, a nice amount, right? He wasn't cheap, he wasn't stingy, right? Then we could assume, if he's giving that much, we could assume that he separated maasrot, and if we're separating, what we're going to do now is we're going to separate everything is Demai, and when we separate Demai, you're going to separate everything at one time. But let's say he was cheap, and the Ani is going collecting, and it gives him very little. Over here, we need to be concerned that this person, because he's cheap, he may not have separated Maasrot. And what's going to happen now? He's going to end up separating. Now he has Demai in his possession, and he has vadai. We're treating this as vadai because this guy didn't give maaser, right? And we're not allowed to separate from demai onto vadai and vadai onto demai. You're not allowed to do that. Each one has its own legalities that are tied to it. You need to separate demai for demai. You need to separate something that's vadai tevel on vadai tevel. So therefore, if he receives very little, we assume, right? We almost know that the homeowner didn't separate maaser, and therefore you're not allowed to group them all together. You can't be bolel v'notel. You can't group them all together and give one maaser, right? You're only allowed to do that if you received it in a nice, sizable, generous portion from the homeowner. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, as always, when he's explaining what came beforehand, halacha is going to be like him.